Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man widely regarded as one of the greatest players of the modern era, Brian O'Driscoll.
I'm very lucky to have played with probably Ireland's greatest ever player, and that's how good he is. And we had great times together on and off the pitch, and I have some fantastic memories. And you know, I get a few goose pimples talking about this because I've had 10, 12 years and I've been so lucky to be with him all the time, and it means an awful lot to me because he's a close friend and I respect him hugely.
Oh, to play against, from a back row point of view, he's as good as a back row on the ground, and very, very difficult to play against. Obviously one of the world's best players and leaders, and hugely respected in Wales.
In world rugby terms, he's been a great ambassador. He's been a fantastic player, and on top of his game for the good part of a decade, or even longer. So, you know, I've got massive respect for him. Played against him a couple of times. Played against him when he was playing for Leinster and I was playing for Munster, and he made me look pretty silly on the day.
He's a bit of a talisman for Ireland because, you know, everyone seems to love him, and when he plays consistently well, and that's all you can ask of a player. So, you know, he's a very impressive guy, and certainly a great bloke off the field as well.
Well, the views of your Ireland teammate Ronan O'Gara, Welsh captain Sam Warburton, South African captain Jean de Villiers and Australia's captain Nathan Sharp. I hope you enjoyed that.
Just gather my thoughts after seeing that. I guess it feels very humbling when you see your teammates and peers saying nice things about you. So, I feel very honoured.
Well, tonight's a bit of a trip down memory lane, so we're going to take you back to where it all began nearly 34 years ago with your parents, Frank and Geraldine.
I got a phone call from one of my neighbours one day to tell me that he had, when he was about 3, that he had climbed out the bedroom window, walked across the windowsill, and when he couldn't go in the other window, came back again. Luckily, she didn't actually tell me until the episode was over, so we had to be careful of things like that.
He was 11, and he had taken the rugby hoop, line and sinker. He played on the wing, and he scored 4 tries that day. And I remember a man standing beside me who was a Blackrock man for many years. His son was actually playing. He says, "Who's that blonde little fellow?" I just said, "He's a new kid in the school." And he said, "He's better than Brendan Mullen was at the same age." I'll never forget it.
We're very proud of him, but when people say to me, "You must be incredibly proud of him," we are, of course we are. But you know, he's just one of our 3 children, and we're incredibly proud of all 3 of them.
Yeah, that's very true. And we're also aware of how he's looked upon in the world. Everywhere he goes, he's a centre of attention. Naturally, it's lovely to see that. But at the end of the day, it's rugby. It's one stage of his life, and it's coming to the end of that pretty soon, in the next year or 2, whatever happens. We look back and it'll be absolutely wonderful. But we think that he's handled it absolutely brilliantly, and that whatever he tries in life, I think he'll be quite successful because he's a great thinker, and I think that shows on the pitch. I think that's probably his rugby brain is absolutely incredible.
Parents, eh, Brian?
Thanks, Dad.
Incredibly supportive parents. You've played 126 test matches, 120 for Ireland, 6 for the Lions. How many have they not been at?
Not many. I would say probably only maybe 6 or 7. Like even for years, for the first 7, 8 years, anytime we'd go to Australia or New Zealand, they'd be travelling down and they'd go and arrange their holidays around it, go see different parts of one or the other, or even in South Africa in 2004 they travelled. They've been on all the Lions tours I've been on. So they have been definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the #1 supporters. Yeah, I'm hugely thankful. I've everything to thank them for. I never got pressurised one way or another about what I should do or how I should be. I was allowed to be my own person, and they've just supported me from minute 1. So thankfully, I think they brought us up with some decent values, and yeah, you always remember that it's family are there through the good and bad times, and they definitely have been.
Well, parents can be embarrassing. You've mentioned Blackrock there. We popped back to your old school to see what memories your teachers had of you. Let's just see what they had to say.
Uh-oh.
I first met Brian, he was about 15 years of age. He looked like he was about 11. He was about that big. Big beamy smile, very charming kid always. great skill on a rugby pitch, fantastically skilled, but incredibly small.
I was teaching Brian probably Wordsworth's poetry or the tragedies of William Shakespeare. And for Brian, there were more important and much more important things in his life. And obviously, that was rugby. But the thing about it is, that cheeky smile, it is kind of a fearlessness, that fearlessness which he faces the haka with.
He was a charmer. He had the ability to not always do all his work and smile his way and charm his way out of trouble. He was never a messer. But I wouldn't say academics were always the top of the list. I mean, he was one of those guys who did enough to get by. But I was talking to a few of his ex-teachers, they always said, you know, the one thing about Brian is when he had done nothing, he could smile his way out of it, and you just agreed that it would happen eventually, and that was his style. He was a very good man manager even then.
Happy days.
She's going to cry here.
You were one of the smallest boys when you went to Blackrock, and scrum half, fly half. Well, you didn't play centre until quite a lot later at university. Being small, did that, do you think, affect how you played rugby and how you've gone on to play rugby?
I think I probably, in my early years when I was small, I played out of fear of, I didn't really love the confrontation thing because I couldn't back it up. I didn't have that size to be able to follow through in tackles and in the contact. So maybe that sharpened my evasive skills a little bit. But then when I did grow a little bit and I got more confident in being able to muscle my way through situations a little bit more, I found myself, so to speak, growing into myself and being a bit more, I suppose, where I am now. But it took time, but you know, I eventually got there. So I don't know if that's even answered the question you asked, but that was my version of it.
Well, from Blackrock, you went to university, to University College Dublin, UCD, and that was where I think you moved from fly half to centre. And it wasn't long, 2 years later, Warren Gatland, funny how things come full circle, possibly, picked you for your Ireland debut against Australia in Brisbane. Can you remember some of the characters in the changing room that day and just what was it like? You were very young.
Yeah, it was kind of naive to how big the situation was. Obviously, I was so excited about getting on the tour to Australia, and then I played a couple of games on the tour before the tests in Australia, and then I got my first test, and it was just hugely exciting. But I was a 20-year-old that was just having fun and just in my element, being out there playing with a load of these guys that I had watched for a few years and thought, wow, you know, been to games, I'd been to, you know, Six Nations the year before in the terraces, and just thought, you know, how incredible it was, what a feeling it must be to wear the green jersey. And then I found myself in their company, and it was a strange one, but I didn't allow myself to think about it too much. I just lived in the moment. Slightly different culture perhaps then. I mean, people like Reggie Corrigan, Keith Wood, hair gel, headphones, not really. Not so much. Yeah, it's a very different existence, the professional game in '99 to how it is now. And it's funny, I've been part of probably 3 or maybe 4 Irish teams where groups of players come and go, and now it's definitely a new Irish team. But it's weird, even during the summer down in New Zealand, you know, I sit down the back of the bus and the few guys around me are all wearing headphones, and like, who am I going to talk to? I need someone to distract me. I don't do headphones. So like, Sexto's just about to put his on. I'm like, no, they don't go on at all. You and I are going to have a conversation, and I'm going to relax as a result of this. So seniority. Yeah, it is. It's some of the perks of being an older an older gentleman within the squad. But yeah, the times have changed definitely. But you know, I'm not going to be one of those that back in my day it wasn't like that. You just have to roll with the punches.